Well, we've been waiting all weekend long to see how the last hour of production car racing takes out in the Jacuzzi Spas Australian production car races. We've had 3 1 hours. We'll go into this final 1 hour as the cars roll around for their final warm-up lap for the last race of round 2 over the Shannon's Nationals here at Sandown International Raceway. And Beric Linton will lead the field around. Bob Pearson will line up right next to him with Rick Bates on the next row with Kyle Orford, the first of our Lotuses, in position for Anthony Sewell in a BMW, and Rod Salmon, which I believe will be Lee Burgess in the 6th position on the grid. Jason Miller will line up in the Evo. Justin Anthony in there. Brad Woods in the 1M, and Thomas Muller rounding out the 10 with 3 1Ms in the 10 here today. Dimitri Agathos will line up in 11th, and these guys have been battling hard in the full gas races. Steve Hodge to Michael Benton in the first of our Falcons, and Brent Howard, Kyle Orban, James Keane out of 17.
Callum Jones in the McGain from 17, Aaron Cameron, Colin Osborne and Jeff Russell making up the top 20, and then a few more over the page. Richard Luff in the mini. James Brock has been great in Class E in the MG. Jim Policino rounding off the group in the Lotus, and Chris Lewis also there in the Holden HSV VE. They ran out of petrol in the last race, and because you can't actually work on the car at all during the compulsory pit stop or at any pit stop, and there was no fuel, sorry, I think, at
well, I think that's probably a calculation problem back in the pits there. You'd be able to fill that up to be able to go the 1 hour for sure. There's never been a problem with those things before going 1 hour.
But they ran out early. They were like 10, 15 laps at the end.
Like I said, there's a calculation gone wrong there, as in someone didn't put the last jerry can in, I'd suggest. Whilst we're talking about fuels, big g'day to the crew down at Race Fuels, one of our very important partners involved with the Shannon's Nationals. They travel all around the country with us, not only with the Shannon's Nationals, but with V8 supercars, and they do pretty much every form of motorsport. They do rallying on the tarmac and all sorts of things. So big thanks to the crew down at Race Fuels.
Should also mention the number 1 car, the Sherrins BMW M4 intercooler to charge problem. Got hot pretty much all throughout the race, and that restricted their power. It gave up and seized with just a few laps to go, so that was a bit of a shame there for the Sherrins. They find themselves back in second last position, or thereabouts, down the bottom anyway.
Tomo Tyres and Red Hot Couriers out of Mackay there, so travelling quite a long way to get to Sandown for the 777, and we are away. And again, it's the Product Evos that squirrel their way off the line here. How does the BMW, how does the Lotus go indeed to the run down to turn 1? Here goes the BMW, winds up, draws alongside the Product Evo and goes through again. Will the Lotus join it? Yes, it does. Wow, the poise and balance of the Lotus nearly didn't get through the corner there. Kyle Orford, nose down. They have to be careful in the Evo. It's almost at window level. We saw an issue with the Falcon with one of the Lotuses in the last race. Nice and low to the ground there. But wow, the BMW and the Lotus lead the field down through turns 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, funny you bring that up, Jazz. I had a chat to Jeff Russell after the last race about that accident with the Lotus, the Simpson Lotus. And he said he was wanting to get through the corner to pass Amy, as we see Rick Bates go off. Some blows for him.
Up. Wow, potential race winner. Actually, parking it up.
Rick Bates, or is it Pearson? I only say that because I can't see. No. Yeah, I can't see Pearson on the sheet, so I'd say it might have been Bob.
It is Bob. Sorry about that. Number 33.
Safety
probably
car
a safety car now that the car's moving again, and it's dropping something out the underside there. So a bit of smoke there for Bob. I wonder if that's a clutch. Well, so here they go, and it is going to be Kyle Begg that has the race. No, sorry, it's not. It's Beric Linton to Kyle Orford. But Begg has gone through on Orford now, so the Lotus has gone back to P3. Here comes Rick Bates in the blue and yellow
nice
Product. And Jason Miller onto the dirt there, gets through on Lee Burgess as well. So he's in a hurry. The Evo 9 wants to get a result in this race. Car number 20 there, middle of the shot. And here's our number 54, the Simply Sports Cars Alpha. Not Alpha, Lotus. A long way from an Alpha. The Lotus Exige 350 Sport. Here's the look down the inside. Jason Miller, all 4 wheels on the dirt.
Trying to get
albeit at slow speed there, just getting through nicely through to there as well. So there's our race leader, Berwick Linton. Carl Begg next, then Kyle Orford, Rick Bates, then Muller in the number 38 Class A car, which is Thomas Muller, the 1M.
Jason
Racing
Miller.
Team.
Muller and Miller,
yep,
in 5th and 6th.
So Thomas Muller will hand over to Shane Smollen. Shane, of course, we've seen run pretty hard. Very, very experienced Carrera Cup racer. And we see the Lotus Exige 350 Sport from Simply Sports Cars. Great to see Simply Sports Cars throwing some effort in the Australian Production Car Championship.
So
and
the
a
Lotus,
long time since we've seen an effort from any Lotus people.
Yeah, the Lotus currently in 3rd. Rick Bates in 4th place, and a nice move up the inside in the number 5 car there by Drew Ridge. Shares that car with Brad Woods, the Marks car, the 1M BMW. Compulsory window open, and cars come in. Now, should mention too, and I think we have throughout the commentary, the cars are not to be worked on at all throughout the compulsory pit stop window. The only thing you can do is change drivers, and that was a bit of an issue for car 90 in race 3, the first race this afternoon. They did tyre pressures during the compulsory pit stop, and as a result, they had to come in for a second pit stop. It was considered as a mechanical pit stop, not a compulsory pit stop. So
well, you've got to be careful on those nuances, don't you?
Yeah, hence the reason why the 90 at the big car had to do 2 pit stops in the last race.
The Callahan car there. Who's at the wheel of the big Commodore at the moment? So, have a look.
I thought it might
Chris
have
Lillis or
been,
Nathan
Lewis,
Callahan. It's Lillis down there in 9th at the moment, going all 4 wheels over the back of the ripple strip, exiting turn 4. Here's our race leader into the pits, and in comes Rick Bates as well. He'll come in. There goes Dimitri Agathos.
Not too many cars have waited for their pit stops in the 3 races we've had so far. The majority coming in early in the compulsory pit stop window.
Sorry, that was Lachlan Gibbons in the 66 WRX. Sorry about that. Lachlan Gibbons at the wheel there now. And Lee Bird's in the AMG as well. So this is for position on the track. These are 2 cars in the A1 class. Number 33 of Bob Pearson,
which is currently sitting in 26th position. Obviously, as we saw earlier, had an issue on that first lap.
Race leader now in the C63, Carl Begg. And just up the road, a couple of cars that have already been through for their pit stops. It's car 1. Barutney and Sharon. Currently Barut at the wheel. And did the wheel work yesterday. And it's Jason Miller the car just in front there, but that AMG C63 is your current race leader, as Berwick Linton went into the pits in the race lead, will emerge down in 16th. And we've got Colin Osborne in the number 13 Class C car. Who's leading Class C at the moment is Colin Osborne. So he came into the pits in the lead. It's Callan Jones in the other team car, a couple of spots further back down the road. So race leader in now, the C63 car number 90, Carl Begg at the wheel.
He was the race leader. Now that he's come into the pits, that has gone to the number 54 car with Kyle Orford.
Rick Bates in.
So that Lotus Exige of Kyle Orford currently leading the race, ahead of the Drew Ridge BMW 1M, and then we have the A2 car of Coulthard, the New South Welshman.
Lotus leads.
Yeah.
There's the headline. Lotus leads. Kyle Orford, probably out of the 3 Lotuses that entered this weekend, probably the one in the back of our minds we thought, that's not the one we'd expect to be out in front.
Yeah, I was thinking of Lotus Swarms to the front, but then that's a locust, isn't it? It's not a lotus.
Yeah, no. Lotus is a very pretty flower that floats in the water.
It is.
Or you can have it as a tea. I'd rather have it as my race car.
I'd rather have it as a race car too.
Absolutely. Begg back out now in the thick of things. Chris Lillis into P4, but not pit stop. Let's have a look. It's Beric Linton that is the first of our cars that have pit stop. And then it'll be Begg, who's come out, and Grant Sherrin, and Rick Bates, Jason Miller, Jim Policina has been in as well. So,
geez, the Sherrin car's done well. It's got itself up effectively with those cars that have had a pit stop. It is currently in third place.
Yep. One of the things I noticed just there with the pit stops was that Rick Bates came in, and before he had pulled up to a complete stop, he put the wheel on almost full lock left. So when his time's up, the car's already heading in the right direction. Everyone tends to pull the car up with a straight wheel, and then you turn the wheel while you're stationary, and on a very warm race tyre, it tends to rip all the rubber out that's in contact with the ground. Oh, there's the Carademus Falcon.
Yeah.
And that was George, currently in 7th on the road. Just about went into the wall at turn 4, arrested it. All 4 wheels, smoke pouring off. Here's Colin Osborne now. He's only just exited the pits in the number 13. In fact, he went into the pits, the leader of Class 3. So that's Colin Osborne going slow there. It's only just been serviced.
Coulthard and Lillis racing in the A2 class. Currently 3rd and 4th on the track outright, and racing for 1st and 2nd in A2. As they make their way back down the straight to complete their 8th lap of the race. 16 minutes down, meaning 44 minutes remain in our 1 hour race, our 4th 1 hour race for the weekend. It's been a pretty fun format to be a part of, the 4 1 hour races. Got everything of the endurance race with dual drivers and the like.
Certainly they entertained us last year with the 4 race wins. I think the only one that were disappointed with the way things have gone here today will be Bob Pearson after he dominated and took 4 from 4. Shots of the Lotus that was in the race lead, now stationary in pit lane for Simply Sports cars.
Really rushing to smile in the background.
He's doing his research too, making contact with people, updating his Twitter.
So, been a trooper.
He certainly has. He certainly has this weekend. Put in a great effort last weekend, somewhere in the middle of the world, somewhere following off-road racing, as this is a change. Now with Begg and car 1, which is Grant Sherrin. Certainly a big push. Now that's for 10th and 11th on the road, so Sherrin goes through to 10th.
But effectively, after pit stops, for 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beric Linton, still the leader in that regard. The cars that have had their pit stops. He is down in 9th place on all the sheets at the moment. All the cars above him have yet to stop. Again, Grant Sherrin taking the 2nd race of the day, as he did yesterday as well. Hopefully it works out better for him this time round. Bit of a spin and a touch of the wall yesterday. Saw a fair bit of damage to the front of that BMW M4. Looks in pretty good nick as we speak though at the moment.
Jim Policina coming down now in the Lotus. Continuing on underneath the Penrite Bridge. Playing to the strengths of the Lotus, nimble, lightweight, getting through the air nicely. I dare say the turbo cars around it would probably gazump it on just outright horsepower figures. But certainly Lotus have always stuck with that same theory, the same philosophy, haven't they? Make it lightweight, make it last.
It's like the little ninja of the field, isn't it? It just creeps up on you and you don't see it. Bang, there it is.
Little ninja.
Gotcha.
Wouldn't be surprised if at the next round one of the Lotuses turns up with a sticker on it saying the little ninja.
The little ninja, take it.
That one there, particularly in the back of shot, all black. Way out. The skies are starting to get dull over Sandown at the moment. It might be the little ninja. 83 now, which is a Rick Bates. We're charging around the number 38. This is for a spot in the race and in class too. Bates gets around Muller. And continuing on his happy way, so Thomas Muller in the number 38, 1M. Battle continues. And here comes Jason Miller in the Evo 9, ranging up behind the 1M.
Chris Lillis in second place in that big Commodore out the front. Coulthard behind him, New South Welshman, and in front of them is our race leader, Drew Ridge.
Chris Lillis certainly having a better run this race than he did last run. Jumped in the car halfway through and had a torrid time getting his head around the race. I dare say Nathan Callahan will be the one jumping in at half race distance as they share the driving duties in the VF GTS. Try and bring it home for a good result today. Cache Holmes across the back of that car. And just up the road is Lachlan Gibbons in the Full Gas Racing WRX. Not a great weekend for those guys. I would have thought that after such a strong finish to last year that they'd be able to push sort of further up the field, substantially further up the field than where they've been finishing this weekend. But they'll have blown the cobwebs out and get themselves ready for the next round, the Australian Production Car Series. And of course, doing it now this year for Jacuzzi Spas, and it's the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series. Amy Griffith there again in the Toyota Echo number 12, sharing with her dad Mark. He's had a busy previous race in the GT, so he'll have a bit of a rest and I'd say some water to rehydrate. And there goes the number 7 Lotus. Jim Policina at the wheel, the Mocom entered car. And here comes the Lotus. I guess the other thing, Tony, we're going to have to get used to as the season goes on is that Bob Pearson's going to retire the two Evo 10s and bring on a couple of Cayman.
Yeah, exactly. Which were meant to be here for this weekend. Unfortunately, though, for Bob, some issues earlier in the week meant that they had to sort of withdraw those two cars. And we all thought that when the rains came down on Friday, that it was probably to the advantage of Bates and Pearson that they had the Evos, the four-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive Evos, just cutting through the water track, the wet track on Friday.
Well, any qualifying it was, it worked out well for them, didn't it? Saturday, the first race, they were blazed across the front row. But I dare say about now the ability of the Cayman. And gee, I tell you what, a pretty nice position to be in life with Bob Pearson is to say, well, the two Porsches aren't quite ready. Let's dust off these couple of Evos I've got before we put them on the market as some of the most winning Evos in the Southern Hemisphere. In fact, it'd be interesting to see how Stewie Costera's car that he drove for Alan Heafy, how many wins those cars had up against the cars that Bob Pearson entered. And I guess Gary Holt as well was pretty successful with Evos as well.
So Drew Ridge remains our leader. There's the 54 Lotus of Kyle Alford. And in front of him, Troy Muller. As they take the same line through the back of the track. The Lotus had the advantage early on, but just a late break, unfortunately for Alford, meant that he had to turn up that position.
The battle's raged, hasn't it?
Got some power though down the straight.
1M. Who would have thought a 1M had ever been out-dragged the way Beric Linton took the title a couple of years ago. It was a strong fronting of the 1M, and now he's in the M3. And a fair way off being able to get back into the lead of this race. There's still 5 cars that haven't done their pit stop, but upon our reckoning, it will appear as though Beric Linton will hold the lead, and he'll hold it from Grant Sherrin at this point in time. 54 continuing on. It's Happy and Merry Way down there in 12th place now. Kyle Alford, Simply Sports Cars Lotus. The last time in the organisation put a Lotus on the track. It was the Elise at Monarch Motors, which was the distributor for Lotus right back in the 80s. The Trust Bank Stokel. I'll be corrected on that, but I'm pretty sure that was the last pseudo manufacturer effort.
The Lotus Exige V6 Cup car, 354 brake horsepower, 3.5 litre supercharged V6 engine, and just a mean car. Only weighing in at a 1,000 kilos, so just a pretty light car when you compare it to something like the big Falcons and the Commodores.
Yeah, that's the Lotus Theory KISS is what it's all about.
There's our race leader, Drew Ridge.
You get in some of these Lotuses, the Elises and stuff like that, with the lightweight, the Superleggera, for a want of an Italian word for it, and you get in there, sans carpet, sans radio, just a bucket seat there and a seat belt and a stick to change gears, and no mess, no fuss. It's all about the drive. It's all about the experience of going motoring. You want a cup holder, that's what your hand's for. We're all about driving. You don't drink with a cup in your hand. Yeah. Stop and have a drink if you need one. Very effective sports cars in the Lotuses.
So the BMW 1M of Drew Ridge continues to lead this race ahead of the big Holden HSV VE of Chris Lillis. Coulthard now comes into the pits as well. The 777 car there, currently leading Class T and doing well overall as well, up into 15th place.
It's a very strong showing for the Class D car there at the moment. In fact, gazumping a number of A1 cars, including Lee Burgess in the Merc, Aaron Russell in their car, Lachlan Gibbons in the WRX. The first of the Class C cars is Blake Orban, Callan Jones, Dominic Mertens. The first of the the second of the B1 cars. First of the B1 cars at the moment is Mick Benton, who has not stopped. So currently sitting in 9th, will probably drop off that pace. The number 64 rounding the number 66 there. So that's currently second place on the road, but hasn't done a pit stop against Lachlan Gibbons in the 66, who has stopped. So it's an A2 car, the big Holden, and pit bound as we speak. And Lachlan Gibbons goes on his merry way in the full gas racing Subaru.
So Chris Lillis takes the 64 Commodore into the pits, and we'll see whether there's a driver change happening there. Nathan Callahan had a fantastic stint first up in race 3, and the car up in second place. There is the 64. Also coming in front of it,
Christian Fitzgerald in. Or is that Brent Howard currently? Certainly a driver change going on.
Yeah, it was Fitzgerald in the car.
Fitzgerald. Keeping that car very straight, neat and tidy. I dare say Father Peter saying, what you got to do, son, is bring the car back straight and tidy, so all we have to do is tune it and not fix it. Fitzy was always one for bringing the car back alive and ready to fight another day, and let's not waste time and money and effort fixing a panel on a car. Let's spend our time making the thing work properly. It's number 54, Lotus again, as we see Lillis car, which will now have been swapped over. It'll have Nathan Callahan at the wheel, who drove a ripping first half of the race earlier on today. Absolutely drove the wheels off this Commodore. So it'll be interesting to see if he can maintain the rage and bring this car home in a strong position there. Currently rejoined the race in 13th spot. And as far as A2 cars go, they're still second on the road. Carl Begg in the Mercedes.
And they've had their pit stop.
Yeah, the car renowned for leaving big black tyre marks on the road, exiting turn 1. Class C car of Colin Osborne. Is that going slow, or is it just the closing speed of the Class A1 and A2 cars there?
So Drew Ridge, the leading car at the moment, still yet to take his pit stop. And with a time of around about 1:10 to 1:20 for a pit stop, we could find Drew Ridge come back into the race at around about 9th or 10th.
Nathan Callahan didn't waste any time in putting the wheels out over the back of the ripple strip there and sending some stones skyward. And now he's cracking it sideways. Certainly not wasting any time getting used to the power under the right foot there. Not even one lap completed. He's been out the back of the ripple strip and now he's sliding it, wheels ablaze, tyres ablaze through turn 1. Storms on past the BMW. Wow, have a look at the speed that HSV's got on the go.
Russell kept it up with him, no doubt about it, throughout the bendy parts of the race. But down the straight, the big HSV engine just opening up. So look at this, there's Russell. And the nimbler BMW.
Cracking it sideways there. Good bit of Aussie muscle there, 2.2 litres. No, actually not. It's American muscle, but Aussie chassis on board there and charging across the top. Under 30 minutes left to go in the final race of the weekend for this round 2 of the Shannons Nationals, and we can't wait to get to Phillip Island in a month's time for round 3. We'll really start to turn it on down there. There's another shot of that same Commodore doing the same thing out over the back of the ripple strip here. The BMW looks to the inside. Callahan opens it up, says, righto, there you go. I'll see if I can run you down in the straight like it did last time. They'll come up on the back of Colin Osborne there. It's number 54 again. Alford car. Currently in 7th place. Kyle Alford at the wheel of that Lotus. And just up the road, that will be the 83 of Rick Bates. So they're actually 6th and 7th currently on the road. The only car left to pit is the race leader, car number 5 of Ridge. And compulsory pit stop window is still open. I think it's got about another 4 minutes or so to do that. Here's this great little Simply Sports Cars Lotus. And continue its way underneath the Penrite Bridge.
Back to life, Daz.
You with me, Tone?
Yep, just Perry Clinton remains our leader of the cars that have had their pit stop. Drew Ridge will have to do one very, very soon. I'd suggest it's going to be either this or the next lap. Otherwise, there will be some penalties handed out for missing out on that compulsory pit stop window.
Colin Osborne again slowing. Was leading Class C. It's now Blake Orban that's leading Class C. Callan Jones in 2nd place there in Class C. Colin Osborne is actually the last car on the road in this race now. There's Brock going through, currently 23rd in the MG Motorsports outfit.
Doing a good job, that MG.
He kept out of trouble.
Yep.
One of the very simple goals for the team was to be reliable too, so they've proven that at this point. I guess the next big test for it will be a 4-hour.
Yeah.
In one stint, or a 3-hour or something like that. That's a real test.
We haven't really seen what the Lotus can actually provide also, as they've had situations where they've got up towards the top of the timesheets and then all of a sudden something has gone wrong. Either someone's hit them or they've had an issue. There is our leader, Drew Ridge. Will this be the moment that he comes into the pits with only a couple of minutes left on the clock for that compulsory pit stop window? I would suggest that Drew Ridge needs to consider quite seriously going straight, but he doesn't. He veers left and stays on the track.
He's got about 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. He's doing 1 minute 20 lap time, so wow, that's leaving it to the last possible opportunity to get in. Could be part of their game plan too. 25 seconds back to Berwick Linton. He's certainly going to lose the lead just on the sheer fact of going to the lane.
But I feel he might come in between 7th and 8th back on the track, which would be a nice position to be in.
I suppose the good feeling of being actually in the lead of a race is something you want to cherish for as many laps as you possibly can. There's the MG again. James Brock at the wheel. The other thing is, Tony, something I guess I'll put a bit of a form guide on is that once we get to some of the 3 and 4 hour races in the landscape of the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series, the Lotus will be good on fuel and it'll be great on tyres.
Yeah.
So some of those pit stops that the BMWs and the Commodores and the Evos are going to have to do and change tyres and stuff like that. The Lotus will probably get another 5-10 laps out of it before it has to do anything like that. And possibly 5 or 10's a conservative consumption on fuel and tyres for it as well.
15 seconds to go on the clock. This has to be it for Drew Ridge. He stays out there. And as the clock winds down, Drew Ridge is yet to do his compulsory pit stop. And one would suggest that that window is all set to close. It stays open, so maybe there's another minute or two left, as.
Well, I've just been sent a text from Amanda at Production Cars, and the rule is there's a bulletin which was released yesterday. The compulsory pit stop window shall open 10 minutes after the commencement of the formation lap and close 50 minutes after the formation lap.
Oh, so still got 15 minutes.
We do have another 15 minutes.
So don't worry about Drew Ridge, stay out there.
Yep, stay out there. So he could probably lead for about another 11 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So Beric Linton here in the number 23, who, regardless of what happens with our race leader in Drew Ridge, the effective race leader is Beric Linton. And behind him is Grant Sherrin. So let's see if we can get this shot or a long shot to see how far behind. In fact, we'll never get it because it's a 22-second lead. And I'm going to put everything on the line here and say with 20 minutes left to go, a 22-second lead for anyone, even though it is the number one car, is just too much to try and chase down. That is a massive task. It's a second a lap, and it's a constant second a lap with no mistakes and doing it rapidly.
Yeah, no doubt. So the strategy that Drew Ridge is obviously going with is he's hoping that there's going to be a safety car at some point between now and the 50-minute mark. Would that be right?
I'm not sure what the strategy is. I've always been one, get it done early.
Yeah.
Unless there's a weather situation. If you start the race on wets and it looks like it's going to dry, then you stay on the wets as long as you possibly have to, and that can throw something in it. Or if there's an extended safety car early on in the race that you can take advantage of as well.
So Drew Ridge remains our leader on the track. With the cars, though, that have had a pit stop, and that is all, bar Drew Ridge. It is Beric Linton who is our leader. An 11-second gap between him and Grant Sherrin. That was 13 a few minutes ago, so that BMW M4 making a slight improvement on the lead of the M3. Begg in fourth, Policina in fifth, Bates in sixth, Alford, Miller, and Burgess rounding up our top 10 cars in that Mercedes. Drew Ridge, I should say, sorry, remains our leader on the track. There's the Cole Begg car behind it, Jim Policina. Be great to see if we can get the two Lotuses finished on the track here in this race. That hasn't happened yet out of the 3 races we've already had.
Tony, I get the feeling that the Lotuses coming into this weekend have got a fair bit of support around the paddock area. There's a bit of interest in the fact that there's something new and a pretty good-looking car that people want to see this car come through. And in fact, the one in front as well, the C63 Mercedes, because with the demise of the V8 Falcons and Commodores in the local market, the only way you can get a V8 these days is have one of these top European cars. And the C63, the AMG, is sort of like the muscle car coming out of Germany these days, the family saloon type of thing. So there's number one, currently third in this race, effective second. And a couple of Evos as well, now running down in Rick Bates running in 6th, and Bob Pearson running in 15th. And so the domination of the Evos has halted, if you like, for the moment in the Australian Production Car championships.
20 minutes remaining on the clock. And this is the final race of round 2 of our Shannon's Nationals weekend here at Sandown International Raceway. Race 4 of the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series. 3 wins to Berwick Linton from races 1, 2 and 3. Can he make it a clean sweep of the weekend? At the moment, the good money will say yes. Still 20 minutes to go, though.
Frantically waved blue flag at the top of the hill for these 3 A1 class cars there. That's an interesting interpretation by the flaggy up there. All 3 of them would know exactly.
Warm,
hey?
Trying to stay warm, wasn't he?
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, it's a race in 3 here, albeit that the number 54 is trying to get through on Rick Bates, but Rick's totally entitled to race him. Bob, I guess, is the one that's further down the field that's probably being made aware that Rick and the number 54 Lotus of Kyle Orford is coming.
Fastest lap of the race so far going to the BMW M4 of Grant Sherrin, a 1:18.49.
I guess their results this weekend, or their finishing places in the races with the Sherrin car, is not really testament to the pace, is it?
No.
Because they've had fastest lap all weekend.
Well, that has been the M4
Yeah.
for the year and a half.
For its entirety,
For its entirety. There's been plenty of races where it was without doubt the fastest car, but just a little thing here and a little thing there.
Yeah.
So hard to get these cars, which effectively are cars you just buy out of the shop window.
And
win on
yes,
Sunday, by Monday mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, they're an effective and quick car, but when you throw them in the race situation and you're using them for that bit of trim just being exited off the Amy and Mark Griffith Echo.
Interesting for Drew Ridge right there. Found his way through though. There's the 21 Falcon, which has a fair bit of wear on its left-hand side. And there's our leader, Berwick Linton, of the cars that have had their pit stop. Drew Ridge yet to do that. This time we know he has 7 minutes 50 left to be able to pop in.
Couple of 1Ms, or 1M and an M3. Getting pretty racy with it. Car number 4 is not weighing out right into this. Is Aaron Russell. Currently down, it is an A1 car, but currently down in 11th. Berwick Linton currently 2nd on the road, but effective race leader. They've got this M3 working really, really well out of the box. Very experienced BMW competitors though, so they'll know the right people to get to help them to tune that one up. There's Jason Miller, currently 8th. And right in behind is the Thomas Muller car. So this is for track position, race position. And here comes the bright orange 1M. And there goes Lee Burgess in the Aqualuma car that he's been sharing with Rod Salmon throughout this weekend. Rod did the racing yesterday. Lee doing the racing today.
Inside goes Drew Ridge. Jason Miller being the car that he's just passed. Troy Muller and Lee Burgess back there as well. With 16 minutes to go in our final race of the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series, round 1 of the series. We'll make our way to Phillip Island at the end of the series. In between though, rounds coming up at Queensland Raceway. Fight the night, always spectacular up there on a Saturday night. Sydney Motorsport Park.
Light starting to really diminish here locally in Melbourne. 4:45. Starts to get a bit dark at this time of the year. Sort of July, we're dark by 5 o'clock.
Next round of the Australian Production Car Series coming up at Queensland Raceway.
Yeah, that fight in the night, the almost traditional round racing at Queensland Raceway. Looking forward to that. Goes into the Saturday night, and really one of those spectacular events. We like to look into the wheels and see the brakes glowing bright red. Both these cars, the brakes will be glowing bright red. A couple of big four-door saloons, nice and heavy. Try and haul them up. Nice to have a HSV in the shed at home. And storming up the hill, the Cachet Homes Mobile 1 car of Nathan Callahan at the wheel, currently in 12th place with Aaron Russell. The next car up the road. So here we have the race leader going into the pits.
Finally.
So, Drew Ridge has strung that out, and there goes our race leader now, Berwick Linton, not too far behind. He really closed up. Just watching this car come over those bumps where it goes over the tunnel at the causeway there as well. It's riding nicely. It's distributing the weight back forward on the car, so not stressing the tyre. Really done some rapid and effective development work. And into the pits goes Drew Ridge, car number 5. And we get Drew out. The number 5, of course, we're talking about Queensland Raceway. That is on the 26th, 27th and 28th of July. The next round is at Phillip Island on the 1st, 2nd and 3rd of June. Big event down there, big GT race, Porsche racing. Also down at Phillip Island. Be a really strong round down there. As we watch Miller, here we go. Here's a really big bunch trying to fight it out. That's our race leader in Berwick Linton, and onto the back of Lee Burgess. And Lee Burgess is in the number 6 there, but running in 10th position. Jason Miller is running in 8th position. So they're actually line astern each other through this race. There's the number 7 Lotus, currently in 3rd position, so a strong spot for it. And A1 being represented there with Jim Bolsina, A2 with the Mercedes diving out from behind the AMG. And Jim Policina just going back now 1 spot as the number 90 goes through. Always going to be a V8 that's going to drive away from anything up the hill here at Sandown. And 12 minutes and 11 seconds still to go. Berwick Linton has got a commanding lead over Grant Sherrin. A good comeback from the Sherrins, Tone.
It's been a big comeback. They've had an interesting weekend. They didn't qualify well at all. And then Ian Sherrin taking that car from 24th up to 2nd place after race 1. Grant Sherrin having a spin. Turn 4 in race 2, damage to the front. And then an intercooler problem with the coolant pump, effectively limiting the amount of time that Ian Sherrin had on the track earlier today. But a good comeback from Grant Sherrin in this final race to get the car back up into 2nd place. And the reason it's a great comeback is because it gives them a massive amount of points. What it has done, though, we've had such an interesting finishing situation behind Berwick Linton all weekend, is that looking at the points now, Berwick Linton goes out of race 1, round 1, I should say, with 160 points. Rick Bates is next on 95, a massive gap between 1st and 2nd after 4 races.
Talk about set up your year.
Yeah.
Talking about set up the year. But we were talking about it during the prototype racing, we saw Mark Lauke come home last year and we thought he was done. Halfway through the year, we went, Mark Lauke's gone. And then he just got the car right and charged home and came home with the title. And we all looked at each other and went, wow, you string a whole lot of race wins together, and when you look like you're baked, you're actually not. See what I did there? Mark Lauke, the flower milk
No, I
baked.
got that, yeah. Got that.
10 minutes left to go in the day, Tone.
Can't say
Digging
I'm
deep.
impressed, but
Digging deep.
I got it. Now, you're doing well, mate. Been a big day of action here. Shannon's Nationals, round 2. We were at Tailem Bend just a few weeks ago for the opening round of the season. We'll make our way to Phillip Island next time around, where the GTs will join us. Formula 4 action also at Phillip Island as well. Plenty of other things, including the Radicals as well, will be there.
Yeah, the Radicals have got a couple of trips to the island this year. They'll, of course, be joining the production cars with their last round at Phillip Island at the end of the year, which is not part of the Shannon's Nationals, but will certainly be part of the last round of the Australian production cars. And then the sports sedans that joined us at the first round at Tailem Bend will have their last round at Island Magic, the traditional schoolies for race car drivers down at Phillip Island at the last weekend of November. Always a great weekend. Good festive event down there at Phillip Island. 9 minutes left to go for racing in the fourth race of the production cars. Number 54 just getting a bit of short back and sides, currently in 6th place. And looking to get onto that back of that car just in front of them there, the Rick Bates Evo.
Under a second is the gap between those two, and you can see it there. So flying home is Cole Alford. Had to get past some back markers first. And he did that by getting past Martins. And now Rick Bates is his next target.
It's actually thought that Golf we're just looking at there on screen, we thought that would have acquitted itself a bit stronger than what it has here this weekend. I guess I hark back to, lock up there for Rick Bates, and Lee Burgess goes through. Lachlan Gibbons goes through.
Cole Alford could go through if Lachlan Gibbons could just pick it up.
That's got a flat. That's got a flat. The number 83 of Rick Bates has got a flat left front.
That'll turn to a puncher shortly.
Yeah, he would certainly know what's going on now. He's getting some fairly rapid feedback through the wheel. And he's just let Team Boss go through, albeit that Bob is down in 15. He's unlapping himself there. So Rick Bates will come to the lane. In fact, he's all dinged up.
Yeah, he's had a hit, hasn't he?
Yep, all dinged up there. So here's a replay. There it is. There it is right there. It was deflating before it locked up.
But what did he hit?
I'm not sure. He maybe just damaged it off a ripper strip or something like that.
No, but that definitely the right-hand side of that car was damaged.
Yeah. Yeah, the side trim is dragging on the ground there as well. So, wow, with 7 minutes left to go, a guy who's in contention for a podium is pit bound with a flat tyre and damage all down the driver's side of the car.
Here he comes, Rick Bates. There'll be a tyre change and they'll send him back out. Currently dropping down the field at a rapid speed into 10th place. He currently is now.
Crew's watching on. Everyone's starting to get that late in the afternoon stare about them, aren't they? Yeah. Gee, I hope that's not our car coming in with smoke pouring off. We don't need to do that the last 6 minutes of the race.
Troy Muller there in the 7th position of the race. Car up on the jack, the Mitsubishi Evo of Rick Bates. Wheel nuts off, checking that right-hand side to make sure there's nothing loose. And if there is, just pull it off like that, the bottom draw trim. Just grab it, get it out of there.
The car number 50, the Volkswagen Golf that I was talking about, with some experienced operators there, currently in 19th place. It is a Class B1 car, so it's got Russell leading that class up the road from it in 16th place. But they are in 3rd place in the round, Adrian Morale, then it is Mertens, So Dominic Mertens, as I alluded to before, heaps and heaps of experience in production cars. So we'll probably see that Golf start to come on with its development phase at Queensland Raceway at the Fight in the Night. Forgot about the Fight in the Night, Tone. I'm getting all excited again. It's a good one, that. Yeah. Good race.
Very much looking forward to it.
Oh, there it goes.
Bob Pearson.
Bob Pearson now. So the product cars.
Gee whiz.
Just coming a little bit unstuck here this afternoon. And some damage on what is potentially the swan song of these cars for the product team. They're going to pack them up with punched-in faces, aren't they?
Certainly are. As our lead-up continues to push ahead with 5 minutes to go in the final race of the weekend here at Sandown. Shannon's Nationals round 2, round 1 of the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series. Oh, there it is, the lock-up and the wide haul for Bob Pearson, who hasn't had the best of days, had an issue from the start, finds himself currently in 15th place. But as in race 3, will finish with his teammate, Rick Bates. They will finish together as Rick is back out on track in 14th place. Not as far down as they would have wanted to be, I'm sure, Bates and Pearson. But they will be a formidable combination throughout the 2018 Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series.
Those playing along at home, the lap record has been absolutely shown. The dust in the rear vision mirror this weekend, a 120.62 that Shane Marshall had held for an inordinate amount of time since 2013. So that was a 120.62. We're now looking at a 118.49.
Well, actually, a 118.18 was set by Berwick Lynch in the last race.
So even the fastest laps in this race by half a dozen cars is below that time now. So times have changed and moved on. So Berwick Linton will effectively at this point of the weekend leave and will go into the record books as now the lap record holder. And at this point in time, it doesn't look like anything's going to halt this M3.
Now, you know how we spoke about Rick Bates being second in the championship on 95 points behind the 160 of Berwick Linton? Due to that puncher, he's now dropped down to 78 points. So there's a massive 82 points between first and second in the championship after round 1.
You don't have to love how cruel motorsport is, do you? Sometimes you just put your tail between your legs and you wander off into the distance, don't you? Wow, that's hard. That's a bitter pill. That really is. It's hard work too. And these guys are in it. They're in it for the year. They haven't bought a couple of Porsches to not go racing. That's for sure. They want to get out and use them. 2.5 minutes left to go at round 2 of the Shannon's Nationals. We'd love to see all of you at every single one of our rounds throughout the year at Phillip Island on the 1st, 2nd and 3rd of June. Be a huge weekend down there. Get down to Melbourne's playground, Phillip Island for the weekend, and come to the Shannon's Nationals. As we see the Sharon Rentals car number 1 getting pretty serious with it in the late part of this weekend, pushing hard. And they've taken the fastest lap of this race. They won't take the lap record, not on this lap anyway. Fastest sectors have all been taken by the Sharon car, so they've proven that this thing is rapid. It's just a matter of stringing it together over 4 races. We saw them do it last year. They had some good successes.
And then consistently doing it over rounds.
Yep, that's it. Well, they've got number 1 on the side. Well, it's hard to get that. It's even harder to defend it.
Yep.
Because everyone else wants a piece of that action. We haven't got over 25 cars here to not chase the number 1.
Correct.
In fact, there's over 11 or 12 cars in A1 class are the ones that are probably most likely to have the A1. I say that with caution because the Sharons with their 135i in B class took a championship outright one year, a couple of years ago.
But it's like any form of motorsport, isn't it? Consistency throughout the year. I mean, there was a sort of stat that said in supercars last year, if you finished 4th in every race, you win the championship last year.
Yeah,
so you don't have to win one.
Let's talk about consistency. The wobbles down the side of the Carademas Russell car, they're fairly consistent. They wobble in and out all the way down each side of the car. really given that Falcon a test this weekend.
It's been banged up.
The brakes glowing red hot in the number 90. Under heavy attack now by the Coulthard Simon Hodges car. See if the
the Lotus
Mercedes still glowing up its brakes there. So dying light starts to appear. Just tactically see the glowing brakes. 30 seconds left in this race for race leader Berwick Linton.
Falcon nearly found another Lotus.
The number 90 is leading A2. So the car we're looking at there, car 90, is leading Class A2 and is third on the road. So leading A2 and a podium outright. Really strong start to that. And coming out of turn 4, there is Berwick Linton, lights ablaze. Probably need them for real in about 20 minutes' time.
I'll be turning mine on my car very shortly.
Heavy carrying up the hill, heater on too, I reckon, Toad. And up to the top of the hill in the production dark blue, a really smart colour, in fact, on the road, that car. Maybe not in dark wintry Melbourne conditions, but certainly on the Gold Coast or something like that. A nice dark blue. Look at that, blowing up the front brakes there. So has Berwick Linton relinquished? Has he given up? Absolutely not. If you're glowing up the brakes, you're leaning on them pretty hard, aren't you?
Yeah, he certainly is, and comes around for the final turn of this race 4 here in the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series round 1. It is Berwick Linton who takes the win from Grant Sherrin. They cross the line now in second place. Colbeg, Policina, Alford making up our top 5. Oh, gee whiz, Fettingham, it doesn't get
Gee whiz, Fettingham.
Bates. Goodness me.
Oh no, look, there's bits of wheel spaces and all sorts of stuff flying
So
off.
he had the puncher a few laps before. They got the new tyre on, and I would suggest that maybe they didn't get on tight enough.
Well, either way, keep going, Rick. Don't go pits, go to the line. Finish it. And he's going to.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he'll finish it in 14th place, Bob Pearson.
I think he'll finish it about a metre past the line, actually.
Oh, well, he will stop it as soon as he crosses the line. I can't see him doing another lap.
Nathan
Bob Pearson,
Wong
his
down
teammate,
there.
though, passing him.
Nathan Wong's from Speed Shots, making sure he's getting all the action as they come to the line, and there's a slow car making its way through. Checkered flag. Here goes the CSV Mondo, and here comes the rest of the field. So Berwick Linton beat home Grant Sherrin in car 1. Begg in A2. Jim Policina home in A1, so third in Class A1. Kyle Alford fourth in A1. Miller, then it's Burgess, Muller, Russell, Nathan Callahan. So the number 10 Lewis Callahan car, 64 car, eventually home.
Berwick Linton takes the win, an 11-second victory ahead of Grant Sherrin, the BMW M3. First, the BMW M4. Second, its German cousin, the Mercedes C63 of Carl Begg. In third place, Jim Policina and Kyle Alford. Fantastic result there for the two Lotus Exesias. They've had a pretty tough weekend here at Sandown, but to finish with a 4th and a 5th, a massive bonus for that team. The Mitsubishi Evo of Jason Miller in 6th. Lee Burgess in the Mercedes in 7th. Thomas Muller and Aaron Russell in their BMW 1Ms, finishing 8th and 9th, ahead of that super-powered Commodore of Nathan Callahan in 10th place. Robert Coulthard down in 11th. Brad Woods, Bob Pearson and Rick Bates, a pair of Mitsubishi Evos, battered and belted at the end of that race.
Potentially their swan song too.
Yeah, possibly too, as we see
Shovel
the
them into the
Porsche
truck,
Cayman
boys.
make its way in for Bob Pearson, possibly at the next race at Sandown. Sorry, not at Sandown, I should say Queensland Raceway. Aaron Cameron down in 21st in the 86. The Mini, the MG of James Brock, finishing in 23rd. They finished all 4 races. Fantastic work by those boys there. Mark Griffith, also the last of the finishing cars. Gee whiz, Daz, I tell you what, we've had some fantastic racing here right throughout the weekend, haven't we? Including the 4 Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car races, and Berwick Linton just all conquering.